Welcome, Philip. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Philip, before we get into a lot of conversations around your background and where you come through and a lot of your journey all through, but talk more about your initial part of your life, your journey through to Australia, and how has it been?
So obviously, like I mentioned earlier, my name is Philip Lako. I migrated from South Sudan. South Sudan obviously is a tiny little country in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
I came to Australia in 2004. But before that, I obviously was growing up as a young African child in a little village in South Sudan. Activities that we used to do as children were very, really not something insignificant compared to, there's no school as such. We used to go fishing, maybe doing a bit of housework, but predominantly, obviously, most of the work is not commercialized as such. So more helping my brothers as well as my dad. I also help every now and then when I get asked to do things. Farming in particular is one of the things. But of course, growing up there, obviously in our African context, we have all the jobs we do are all kind of gendered.
Mm-hmm.
So boys cannot do slave. For instance, example, going into the kitchen, for instance, as a young boy, it's not really encouraged as such. But predominantly, there's aspect of responsibilities that are being instilled by the grown up. As to when you grow up, what is your role as a young person? So growing up, obviously, so the tribe I came from, it's called Mondari. It's obviously it's not far away. It's so from Juba. It's about the area from Juba is the capital city of South Sudan. And from that, the main tribe is literally about 52 miles or 72 kilometers. That's pretty much the major town that where most of our people are, which is called Terkeka. But growing up, obviously it got interrupted. So I was being brought up as a young person. I was being modeled to become a person, grown up to be a person who can protect the family, protect the assets of the community, as well as the role of being a man, a grown-up person. So in our culture, we have stages. So there's obviously grow up as a young person, but during that time, usually most of the activities or the roles that you're being coached to become are more or less driven by the community. My parents, although they give birth to me, but the actual upbringing context was really predominantly run by the actual community. So, but of course that process was interrupted. Had I stayed there for all of my life, after this time, I would have gone through an initiation program, which involved me being removed from the village for about 2 weeks. And in there, of course, with other cohort that are similar age group. So we'll be taken into, it's almost like the indigenous people of Australia. What they do is there's an initiation program, usually men in particular. So young men, 18 years, get taken away. And in there, we're really given explicit instructions about what is actually the function of a man in a society. But predominantly like I mentioned briefly, predominantly talked about a protection of the vulnerable people that are disadvantaged in the community, as well as if, for instance, we have people who cannot farm for themselves. It is the role of these young men coming together and actually help farm for that person who don't have a husband, for instance. But of course, that got interrupted when I was removed from the village by the South Sudanese People Liberation, Sudan People Liberation Army at the time.